Today we are learning basketball with Ricky O'Donnell. You can find him on Twitter at SBN_Ricky. He covers the NBA draft, basketball scouting over at SB Nation. And he does it a really cool way from the ground up, where he's following these prospects' journeys back from grassroots in high school all the way through college, all the way through the draft, and watching their development to get that full lens on prospects. And definitely appreciate that perspective and the work that goes into that. We're here today to do a little mock draft 2025 of what we would do if we were in the position of these teams, not necessarily what they will actually do, but if we had a voice in the matter, we might weigh in with what we would do. But before we dive in, I wanted to hear a little bit about the NBA Draft Combine. You're fresh off of that, but first, how you doing today, Ricky?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. NBA Draft Combine was cool. I'm lucky to have it in Chicago, where I'm based out of. So the first NBA Draft Combine I ever went to was 2013. I interviewed a young Rudy Gobert who bended at the waist to talk to me as my arm was extended over my head. He was so huge. I think I also did stories on Dennis Schroeder and Nerlens Noel from that combine. So I've been doing it a long time. It's been fun. I remember writing big stories on Chris Dunn. How about Patrick Baldwin Jr.? A couple of years ago, I did a big story on him that didn't work out too well for me. Did Ron Holland last year. He looks pretty good as a rookie for the Pistons this year. So love the combine. For one, you get really good access to the players, and that's mostly what I focus on. And then also pretty cool to see basketball up close, from some really talented college players, guys you just watched go all through March Madness. Also, oftentimes some international prospects this year, Hanson Yang among them in the combine scrimmages. So, yeah, definitely want the NBA to keep the combine in Chicago forever because I enjoy covering it.
No doubt. It's an awesome experience. Get to actually see the measurements. Some guys, you end up getting a few disappointments because you think some guys listed at 6'8" the whole time, and then you see, oh, it's actually 6'6", and it's wild how much, maybe not at that measurement, but how much half an inch can really matter once you get on the borderline of, can this guy be a guard at the NBA level if he's 6'1.5" instead of 6'2" or 6'3", which is something that has hit, Jay Rich's son, I suppose, and that was one of the big ones that kind of came out. He was a little shorter than projected. Jase Richardson, Ace Bailey as well, maybe just a little shorter than expected. We saw Khaman Maluach has this insane wingspan, like the ratio of the wingspan to height plus minus ratio is it's probably my favorite stat that comes out of all of these random measurements. It's like that's one that you can you feel that it truly measures a player's length and they're kind of the Rajon Rondo of it all, like their wingspan, that like what makes a player a great defender. A part of it is their length and their wingspan. And that's, you might think of a Jay Billis, like just dropping wingspan during draft coverage because it's an important attribute. And there's a reason we keep track of it. So that's a fun stat that comes from it. Were there any individual players like that popped out to you? Any thoughts that, maybe you found out something you didn't necessarily know about a guy before you got there?
Yeah, I guess a couple things. One, favorite interview this year, Collin Murray Boyles, by far. I already loved his game. I wouldn't say I'm quite as high as some of our fellow draft nerds on the internet. A lot of people have him too. I think he's awesome. I'm not going to have him too. Would I be shocked if he ended up being the second best player in the class? Absolutely not. And talking to him only confirmed that. Like, I thought he just had like serious leadership qualities when I was talking to him. Like, he was a great communicator. He was articulate. And what I really liked about him is that he was self-aware. And he was asked at one point, oh, what do you want to show to these NBA teams at the combine? This is a boilerplate question. All these guys are getting asked the same thing. It's easy to kind of blow it off and give a stupid answer. Instead, he's like, shooting. Shooting's the most important thing. Shooting's going to be the most important thing. Even when I become a good shooter, shooting will always be the most important thing. And I'm like, that is really awesome to hear that from a guy who is a 6'6" big man who can't shoot, basically. And it gave me a little more faith in his shooting projection. Also, I just love the way he talked about being a teammate and like what he got out of his second year at South Carolina, learning to hold guys accountable and learning, to step into a more vocal role. So I'm totally sold on Collin Murray Boyles. After talking to him, like, if you're a reporter who covers the team that drafts him, you're going to enjoy spending time with him. So I thought that was cool. Got to mention Cedric Howard. I'm going to raise my hand and say I did not know who Cedric Howard was. And I cover the NBA draft year round for my job. This guy played 6 games at Washington State. Before that, he was at Eastern Washington. I cover like college basketball too. So I'm like, Washington State wasn't really relevant this year after the Pac-12 dissolved. They go to the WCC. They lost Jalen Wells and all their other guys. So anyways, here's this like prospect just bubbling under the surface. Only played 6 games, like I said, and then suffered a season-ending torn labrum. But seems like this guy could be a first-round pick now, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's a top 20 pick. Measured with a 7'2.5" wingspan, had a 40% three-point stroke. I think that he does have some kind of troubling statistical markers in the profile. For example, he only played 1 decent team. It was Iowa, and Iowa was like the worst team in the Big Ten this year, basically. And he was horrible in that game. And then the rest of his games are against low major and mid-major competition. And the defensive playmaking numbers aren't as good as you would like, but you know what? Talking to him, he was a really impressive interview. He, again, seemed like confident, self-aware, ready to go. And this guy had Duke and Alabama in a bidding war for him as a college basketball player. So, obviously, he's good. And he probably has a pro future long term. But I just didn't know much about the guy, honestly, coming into the combine. And I definitely left with a rosier impression of him. So I thought he was cool to talk to. And then just on the court, in terms of the scrimmages, I'm a big Tahaad Pettiford guy. I just loved watching Tahaad Pettiford at Auburn. He is so small, but so quick. Such a dynamic shooter off the pole from anywhere. And he just whooped ass in the combine. He threw down a totally sick 1-footed dunk. I remember I was sitting in the stands watching Bones Highland go crazy in the combine once upon a time. And it reminded me of that a little bit. Like, nobody could stop him, but we knew this already. He took Auburn to the Final Four as a true freshman. He's 6'0", basically. And I got him as a first-round pick. I had him number 25 to your Orlando Magic, actually, in my last mock draft. So, there's a few guys who I thought were impressive at the combine.
Oh, now we're talking my language. That's one of my guys. That's right to my team. I mean, a lot of great stuff to hit on there. Pettiford is just one of the most, you hit on it. I mean, one of the most explosive, exciting, dynamic scorers and shooters. Just gets downhill. Just really love the energy he plays and that skill, that touch, that I think he's described as like ambidextrous, the way he can just use both hands in what he does. Love the fit at 25. We've done a couple of Switch Theory mocks where I've mocked him there as well, as running the fake Orlando Magic armchair GM during a mock draft. I've pulled him in a few times as well. I obviously Orlando needs some scoring, some shooting, and he brings that dynamic shooting ability off the dribble, like you said, and then just has a little bit of an X factor. Like he has that athletic burst that explosive first step you don't always see at the next level that they could definitely use on that roster as well. And good shout with Cedric Howard. Like I'm right there with you. I was not aware of that name before the draft cycle really kicked off. And like you said, like he's had a really impressive journey. Like this is his 3rd year in college. He was in Eastern Washington just a few years ago, and now he's
at D3 Wilmette.
That's what I was looking for. Yeah, I mean, just an awesome story. Goes to show that it might not happen on the first opportunity for you, but especially in today's NIL college landscape, like you can move up quickly in just a handful of years just by showing you know what you're doing and showing your game to the right with the right eyes in front of it. And it's how you see a Danny Wolf jump from Yale to a D1 Michigan, and now he's in the round 1 NBA draft talks. Like things happen fast. If you're a good enough player, the right people will see it, and they'll make the offer to bring you over. And like it's just a credit to him to get to this point in the NBA draft from D3 just a few years ago. And it's just another like teams love long defensive wings, and he checks off some of those boxes right off the top. And he is a name that sure seems like it could be called maybe late first now, that it might have not been before. And then that's cool to hear about CMB, Collin Murray Boyles, like just definitely known for his basketball mind, like a cerebral guy, thinks the game really well. Like his instincts on defense are otherworldly, like what probably his marquee trait there. And it's cool to see that he is aware maybe of what he needs to improve and how valuable that skill is. and that he can continue to improve to bring more winning two-way impact, to not have any flaws in his game. But yeah, you never know what's going to come out of the combine, but you usually get a few fun facts that might change an order here or there. And I think sometimes the measurables, if I had to guess, they probably hurt more than they help, because we already kind of view these guys as kind of mystery box potential when it comes to the draft. And you probably already have, like, I'm not sure, maybe there's been a time or two where being an inch or two taller than projected happened and someone moved up from the combine there. But I do find it interesting that I imagine the higher you are projected to go, you probably stay away from that sort of thing where it might only hurt your stock.
Yeah, we'll see how it affects Ace Bailey, right? He came in,
and Jase, right?
And Jase a little bit shorter, so we'll see.
It's a big one. And so let's just dive right in here. A little mock draft exercise. We're going to take turns. Little mock draft, the top 30 picks, full first round. And we'll just go through what we would do. We're going to put our GM hats on. We're not going to use intel or anything like that. This isn't what we are hearing the teams will do. This is not what we think the teams will do. This is what we would do. You put me in the chair, give us the phone, and let us make the calls. So that's how we're going to do it. Here we are, the 2025 Learning Basketball Swish Theory Podcast mock draft with Ricky O'Donnell. And he has the odds. I got the evens. With the number 1 overall pick, it could go any direction here. Where are you going?
We're going Cooper Flagg. Big surprise.
Whoa!
Flagg, I do think, probably the best American-born prospect since I've been covering the draft, starting in 2013. I think he's awesome. I'd put Zion up there, too. I was all in on Zion back in the day. But Cooper Flagg's not going to have the same pitfalls that Zion had entering the league. I think he's just a no-brainer top prospect. I'm very worried about his fit with the Mavericks, though, if only because they don't have first-round picks in, like, 2027, 28, 29. I think maybe not even 30. So how are they going to build a great team around Cooper Flagg when your current 2 best players, Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving, are in their mid-30s? They're both injury-prone. You're in the West where there's no free meals. So I'm a bit worried about this landing spot from Flagg's perspective. But Cooper Flagg's a stud. He's totally team-proof. He'd be excellent anywhere, even under the tutelage of Nico Harrison. And this is a no-brainer, and I'm going to throw it to you. Would you say there's a 0% chance the NBA draft lottery is rigged historically? Or are you like a guy who's like, I don't know. Are you going 0% or higher?
No, I got to be in the non-zero at this point. I don't know if I can just write it all off as pure luck every single time. There's just one too many coincidences for me, I guess, as a detective out here trying to sleuth around, see what the league is working. I mean, who knows? You go back to obviously Ewing and the frozen envelope in the 90s, the Magic get back-to-back picks. Those obviously weren't rigged, but maybe some of the other ones in the last few years. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, it's hard to take it on face value, especially given what just happened with the trade and all that. And I totally agree. I mean, on one hand, on paper, this roster like feels like a defensive contender, like that just added this Cooper Flagg, this insane, like versatile Swiss Army knife that can do everything for you and fit right in as another defender, maybe be another scoring option and, connector or something. I personally think their biggest need is playmaking. And I would still kind of fall back on that is my biggest question mark of Cooper. And yet I'm still a believer in it. Like, he's so good at everything. Like I've said it before, but his Flagg's versatility is his marquee elite skill to me, where he's just relatively pretty good or great at everything. And it makes it very scalable, like you mentioned, with his role, where you could just plop him on any team and he's going to find a role because he can change his game to the players around him. So, in that sense, they're going to be an awesome team. But like you hit on it, that the future for Dallas isn't like very clear. Like, they have these older stars. They don't have as many picks. It's not like they're rebuilding. So unless Nico pulls a Nico and flips them for Giannis or something crazy, which I wouldn't rule out at this point, like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I do think they end up taking the pick. They've learned from their mistake, and they could be a very good defensive team as soon as next year. And obviously Kyrie and AD, when they're healthy, obviously Kyrie's out for so long, it really throws a big wrench into the mix of what exactly this team's going to look like next year. Like especially if AD gets hurt, it could just be the Cooper Flagg show anyway. But it'll be interesting for sure. I do think I've landed on I would be pretty surprised if they traded the pick, but it's Nico, so we're not going to rule anything out.
I mean, this worked out so well for them. Like, I'd rather have Flagg than Luka, like, no doubt.
Oh wow.
So I'd rather have Flagg than Giannis, just because Giannis is 31. Luka, it's maybe a little bit more of a question, just because he probably is a top 6-7 player at this point, we'll say, and he's still in his prime years. But yeah, I'm not thinking too hard about it. I would go Flagg. I'd rather build a team around Flagg than Luka, like as of today, for both players. So
there it is. When you weigh in the rookie contract value of it all and the max contract of a superstar in their prime, it really does make a lot more sense. I do think there are a handful of players that I would think about moving Flagg for, and those are two of the ones that, I mean, Jokic, Shea, and those two pretty much, and like I guess Tatum or something is like right on the balance. Like, do you think either way? Like, there's very, very a handful that you even think about, and it's really got to be the perfect situation. And they don't need to. I mean, it was like you said, it was a gift wrap present from the NBA gods. You got one of the best prospects, as you said, in American history and in a long time, at the very least. Since Wemby, one of the best prospects of the last like 10 or 15 years, very clearly one of the most versatile. So Mavs fans, I'm happy for Mavs fans. I'm not happy for anyone else really in the involved, but I'm happy for the Mavs fans just to not lose all hope. Maybe they bring a few more people back in the seats with this one. So with the second pick, I'm gonna go with Dylan Harper. To the Spurs. I do think there's a chance that this one could get traded a little more than the Flagg chances, especially with these Giannis rumors coming out right at this time. I love the fit of Giannis next to Wemby. Even Giannis in Houston, the other rumors is another fun one. But like the idea of like, let alone Chris Paul and Fox, like as kind of orchestrators, but the idea of Giannis and Wemby in like a 4-5 pick and roll, or setting both of the screens in a horns or a double drag with Chris Paul setting them up, or De'Aaron Fox hitting downhill like he used to at his peak and just kicking out to them, like just pretty scary to think about. So that's something that I do kind of think the Spurs would be more inclined, and I don't even know if it would be this pick. I don't know if it would be Castle or maybe Fox is involved too. Who really knows all the possibilities? But personally, I think they would view it as like, let's just win now. We have Wemby, we have Giannis, we have Fox, and we don't have to mortgage the future to win now. We can contend and keep most of our long-term assets right away. It's very tantalizing because I'm that big on Giannis. Like I think he's more mid-peak, mid-prime than he is near the end of it. So I do think that could happen. But if they keep the pick, talk about like a really, really fun, talented backcourt. Dylan Harper is the clear number 2 to me at that slot. And you take the talent, you bring him in because you might have an all-star guard now to pair with your older all-star guard, your younger ace defender in Castle, and your big man to pair with for a long time. So got to go Dylan Harper number 2. And so you're up with the third pick as well, unless you had any thoughts on that with the
I
Sixers.
guess my one Dylan Harper thought is I would also take him with this pick, and I would be very open to making trades if I'm the Spurs, because you're going De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, and Dylan Harper on the perimeter. I don't think those guys really complement each other that well, and more importantly, I don't think they complement Wemby that well, because none of them can really shoot. Like I sort of like them individually as pieces, but I just don't know if like it's cohesive enough to like work as a whole. So just the shooting in particular worries me. I'm actually higher on Harper's shooting translation than a lot of people, I think. I think he's going to be able to shoot, just looking at how like the fluidity of how he gets into and out of his shot is pretty encouraging to me. I know that's kind of dumb guy analysis, and then I should be looking at, the fact that he shot 75% on free throws, and that, his volume wasn't super high. I think he went 50 for 150 from 3-point range this year. So like not super good. I think he hit 37% off the catch, which is pretty good, but his like pull up was real bad. So Yeah, I don't know. I have more faith in him as a shooter than some people. So yeah, I take him number 2 as well. So all right, third pick. This is where the draft starts. This is where it gets interesting. The Philadelphia 76ers. It's funny that I landed on this because I'm in the process of writing an article right now. And what should the Sixers do with the third pick in the draft? The Sixers hold the keys to the draft, the number 3 overall pick. Ultimately, I'm deciding between two guys here, I think. VJ Edgecombe and Kon Knueppel. And it's hard to make this pick for Philly because a lot of it comes down to Embiid. And I don't have any idea if Joel Embiid will ever be able to return to being Joel Embiid. So, what do you do here? I think a little trade down would be dope if they could get like the Nets to buy in on the Ace Bailey experience and want to trade up for him, and then you could go down to 8. Recoup some value in addition to getting a pretty good player at 8. So I would be looking at something like that, but I'm actually going to go Knueppel here. And I'm a tad worried about this perimeter now defensively with Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, and Knueppel. Not a ton of size, not a ton of athleticism, but wow, speed and shooting combo could be really nasty there. I think Knueppel is just a sick shooter. And unlike most great shooters, he also gives you quite a bit of ability with the ball in his hands. Like in terms of like the really truly high level shooters, like he's better with the ball in his hands. I think he has the potential to be than like Buddy Hield, obviously, Luke Kennard, who's like decent with the ball, but like I think he could be better than that. I loved his 2-man connection with Maluach in the Duke pick and roll this year, and I just think he's just a gamer. There's that interview with Flagg where Flagg's like, what are you taking during an apocalypse? He's like, oh, a sword and Kon Knueppel or something. He's your ultimate foxhole guy. So I'm going Knueppel for the Sixers. It's a tough pick. I'm giving him the slight edge over Edgecombe, and I will have full rankings later this week on SBNation.com of what else they could do with that pick.
Oh man, what a tease! That's how you tease it up right there. And what a pick! I didn't see it coming, but I really like the fit. I like the explanation there. Knueppel's footwork has really jumped out in this process with trying to get 2 feet in the paint to play at his own speed, his own pace, and his ability to just kind of like you said, make smart winning plays. Like a couple of his hustle plays definitely stand out in memory. Just like the time he pulled in a teammate by his foot like that. Obviously, that's a classic one. He's made some incredible saves, like pinpoint saves to teammates diving out of bounds, and kind of everything you said. That what makes him such an interesting prospect is he's thought of as a shooter, but he's pretty scalable in the idea that he could probably scale up and down with the offense based on what you need and what you were hitting on with his ability to handle and kind of move with the ball in his hands. Is that, yeah, he could be an off-ball shooter, but he can also pump fake and attack the closeouts. But even one step further is he can actually initiate some offense, like you were talking about with the Maluach pick and rolls. Like he has a good handle. He plays with a good pace, that decelerating footwork to get to his spots. Really nice touch on the shots and the passes, tough shots too. Like you saw when Flagg went down, is probably what you're referencing, like late in the ACC tournament where he was like the guy running the offense, and he put up 25, 28 points or something like that. Like he clearly can score, can orchestrate, and create a little bit in addition to the shooting that makes him a tantalizing prospect. I have some concerns, or I have throughout the process, for the defense. Just his will he stay on the floor? Like, is he big and fast enough to be an NBA guard on the defensive side and a full-time starter at that, let alone like a playoff starter if you're drafting him this high as like a real guy for you? And that is to be seen. But the offense is really grown on me. Just complete orchestrator type of guy, like really smart guy that can just run your offense. And I think the scalability is the big one that separates him from some of the other off-ball shooters who are pretty much stuck in that role, where if you need a guy to step up and run some more offense, score a little bit, create for you, you can call on him when you need to. And maybe you have your full offense is healthy, all you need is a stand still shooter or something, or a motion shooter off the ball. You got that too. So definitely a lot to like there, and interesting fit with Philly with the guards. And Embiid is obviously the big question mark, but man, that would be one loaded backcourt talent wise with everyone they got going up in Philly. So we got the 4th pick here. I should probably have the list of what the order is in front of
The
me
Charlotte
with
Hornets. We have the
the Charlotte
Charlotte
Hornets.
Hornets.
All right, man. Anyone's on the board really with at this point. I didn't see Knueppel going. There are some interesting ways. Obviously, you got LaMelo and Brandon Miller on the perimeter. I am intrigued by a handful of options here. I'm intrigued by VJ Edgecombe with the athleticism and throw that defense and some threes next to him. But I think I don't know if it's a reach or not, but I'm going Khaman Maluach here. I really like the fit next to LaMelo, next to Brandon Miller here, like a defensive ace. Just get your defensive cornerstone down low. He's a clear rim runner, rim protector who can run endless pick and rolls with LaMelo. You have like a natural pick and roll partnership there. He's shown some flashes as like a shooter scorer. It just in terms of the touch outside the paint, enough to think that maybe he'll have a little mid range stop and pop or a catch and shoot pick and pop one day. Obviously, it's not the main part of his game, but the big thing with Khaman is his rim finishing is one of the best finishers at the rim efficiency wise we've seen in college and legit many years. And he's just a natural pick and roll guy, right there with LaMelo, who slides right in to kind of solve some of their needs as a defensive cornerstone, rim roller, rim runner at center. They obviously don't seem fully in love with Mark Williams after the trade deadline mishap of sending him out and him coming back in. So they probably aren't totally sold there long term. So might be a little earlier than where he's projected, but I'm gonna go with Khaman, number 4 to the Hornets.
He's one of my favorite players in the draft. I told you I'm still working on my big board, but I do favor him for the number 3 overall player in the class right now. Interesting pick for Charlotte just because of Mark Williams. Are they going to trade Mark Williams this offseason? Well, probably a safe bet. They already tried to. I love the Edgecombe fit with Charlotte, just as sort of like a super athletic defense first connector type between LaMelo and Miller with some long-term on-ball upside. But got to respect the Maluach pick. He's one of my faves.
No doubt. Yeah, the VJ is really interesting there. Like he does slide into kind of what they already do in the backcourt really well and complements LaMelo really well too with kind of that north-south athleticism that he doesn't quite bring. But two interesting players would be a fun pick there for sure. And with the 5th pick in the what is this again? Oh, it's Learning Basketball. The Learning Basketball Swish Theory podcast. Mock draft 2025, the 5th pick for the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, I wanted Maluach here, so I'm mad that you took him.
Oh, man.
I guess I'll take VJ. What I like about VJ is I feel like he has a high floor as someone who can compete defensively, be a floor spacer. I'd say he measured a little bigger than I thought he would. I think he was 6'5" barefoot with like a 6'7.5" wingspan. So I like his spot up shooting and his floor spacing. I like his ability to rebound as a guard, especially like longer shots, longer rebounds, need your guards to rebound. He could do that. I feel like he doesn't make a ton of mistakes out there in terms of like throwing the ball all over the place. So I'm just going to take him as someone who I think has a high floor, but also a high ceiling potentially if he could develop a little more on-ball skill. Like right now, I would say he doesn't really know what he's doing when he attacks off the bounce. He has no pull-up 3 at all, even though I think he's a pretty good catch-and-shoot guy. And then he's like a bad finisher somehow, even though he's an insane athlete. But I think that just comes with like learning how to harness your tools, learning more craft. And Utah, they had Donovan Mitchell there, so that might be like the ultimate upside of a guy like this. But even if he doesn't get there, and I don't think he's like that close, but also I remember watching Mitchell at Louisville, and Mitchell got so much better once he got into the league, just with like, his last step finishing and sort of how he flowed into his pull-ups. Like Edgecombe needs both those things so badly right now. But even if he doesn't get there, I think he could be a pretty solid player. Just as a dude who could hit threes, cause some defensive havoc, kill it in transition, hit the glass, and not be sloppy with the ball. So easy pick here, number 5. I don't think he'll be on the board at this pick in reality, but I'm going VJ Edgecombe to the Jazz.
There it is. It's a great fit. I'm definitely a fan of Edgecombe's potential in this draft. Like he stands out as like the athlete of the draft, where it's a little bit it could go a few different ways with his development, but that athleticism is so kind of bankable that you know that's going to translate. He's shown enough flashes as a shooter, and I think he showed development as a decision maker as well as the season went on. Like the game was slowing down for him a little bit at the very least. So definitely love the idea that at the very least you get an athletic D&3 type guard or tall guard or small wing to throw out there that's probably seems to be a two-way winning player, and then there's that potential that he takes another step, puts it all together between developing the finishing at the rim like you mentioned, and just the consistency of kind of learning how to read and react whether rather than just kind of driving and not knowing exactly or maybe thinking what you're going to do beforehand and doing that. But you want to leave yourself the ability to read and react as the defense kind of dictates what the best shot is, instead of just driving, knowing what you're going to do in advance and just doing that. Like you want to see a little bit of that development. But really love the potential of all the things we've hit on with Edgecombe there. He's an exciting talent. Is a great fit for there. And with the Washington Wizards with the 6th pick, there's honestly a lot of ways I could go here. I feel like they could use the tough shot making shooting of a Tre Johnson or an Ace Bailey if you want a kind of an offensive scorer type. I think the Wizards should go after a playmaker type for all of their play finishers that they have, and they do have Bilal, who's something of like a point forward, I suppose, but um, him with Alex Starr, like I see these big defensive athletic wings that I would like a playmaker to set them up. And I'm going to go, man, I could go, I'm going with a big man here. I'm between two options. I'm really high on Danny Wolf, but Derik Queen is the projected probably big man for this slot. And I could kind of go either ways. Personally, I really like the fit with Wolf, and I'm super high on his feel processing. So I'm going to go a little early here and take Danny Wolf right off the board at 6 overall. He's third on my big board, so it's not necessarily a reach to me, but I understand he's being mocked late lottery or late first round, and he's a flyer. But for me personally, I view him and Queen kind of as similar gambles, high risk, high reward in a sense. They might not have an exact clear position. Are they four big fours, oversized fours? Are they small fives? Um, but for me, Wolf's processing, his feel, his efficiency, obviously the ability for him to run pick and rolls, high volume, I think is directly translatable as an offense that can work at the next level. And he impressed with defensive mobility. I'm just making a bet that he has the highest potential as an offensive engine because of his feel, his footwork, his handle and shot for that size. I'm just kind of making a bet that I could see him being a hub for an offense like this if a team is willing to run it through him. And I think I'd rather make that bet on him because I think the potential ceiling is a bit higher than Queen. However, I do admit I think Queen is probably a little safer of the two because of his athleticism and that downhill footwork. No one wants to get in front of that guy. Incredible vision, like the Wizards can't necessarily go wrong here, but that is the point of the draft, is they actually can go wrong, and one of these choices probably does end up wrong. But based off the just everything I just said, I've been kind of saying this whole process I lean Wolf over Queen for all these reasons as kind of the bet that I would make. But I totally understand that they're both exciting prospects that bring similar things to the table, and there's no problem if they took a Derik Queen. I would be happy for both of them in this spot. Plus, you get Derik Queen, home guy, went to Maryland, like from the area as well with DC. So it would be interesting and kind of fun to see him end up there. But I gotta stay on brand and go with Danny Wolf here. So I'm sure it's little out there pick wise. But any thoughts on that? And New Orleans at 7.
Yeah, I love this because Danny Wolf is one of my least favorite prospects in this class, I would say. Like the guy who I would not want to draft, even later than this. So I think the main thing is that I'm skeptical that he's going to be able to have the same role in the NBA. Like, I wonder, like, what team is actually going to put the ball in his hands and have him run pick and roll as often as he did in Michigan. And also, like, there's probably a reason why you don't see 7-footers be like out on the perimeter as like off the dribble creators, because it's just tough when you got like a smaller guy on you who can pick you. Obviously, there are some benefits to it too, just with the size to see over the defense. But Danny Wolf was just so sloppy with the ball, I thought. And it's my biggest issue with him, like a 24% turnover rate against Big Ten defenses. That's scary to me. So then, you know, if he's not going to be a heavy on ball guy, you got to see him shoot. And I just don't believe in his shot at all. He shot under 60% on free throws, so that's garbage. And then I watched him shoot at the combine, and his release could not be slow. It's like painfully slow, I think.
Oh, no.
Watching it. I mean, you've seen him a bunch too, so maybe we could have differing opinions on this one. But yeah, I just don't trust his shot. If I trusted his shot more, I would like him a lot more, because I think he's going to need to play off the ball. I do agree with you that his defense is pretty interesting, and he's just huge. He's like 7'3" wingspan, 250 pounds, moves well laterally. Yeah, I don't really like Danny Wolf as an NBA draft prospect, so I love that you love him, because, you know, we shouldn't agree on everything here. So that's cool. I love that pick. Okay, so me 7. Then I have the Pelicans. So let's see. Who do we want for the Pelicans? God, the Pelicans just need everything. So this is really tough. You know what the Pelicans need more than anything, though? Is they need an adult in the room. And that's why I'm going with Collin Boyles. They need someone who can professionalize this operation a little bit. Just imagine a Murray Boyles Zion front court, 6'6", just jacked guys who are going to impose their will physically. And I think that Collin Boyles can impose his will mentally a bit too, because he's an elite communicator. He has great instincts. And I think that, New Orleans is just a shit show. And they need like a steadying force on that team. I don't have their defensive rating in front of me, but I have to assume that they were a very bad defense despite employing Herb Jones this year. So I just like Murray Boyles a ton as a prospect. You know, the dream of Murray Boyles, when I interviewed him, it was so funny that he said it when somebody asked him, like, you know, who do you compare yourself after? He's like, on defense, Draymond Green, and on offense, Julius Randle. And it's just like so convenient to just like say that, right? Because he does have some physical comparisons with those guys. But I guess I'm a sucker. I'm buying it. Like, I really like him. I don't know if he can shoot, but I like the fact that he knows he needs to shoot. So that's the first step. Acknowledging you have a problem to fixing that problem. And Pelicans, Murray Boyles, number 7.
That's a real fun one. I like that a lot. We're pro CMB here on the pod. Obviously, got to see him at the combine is super cool, and it is interesting and, you know, cool to hear him be aware of those type of comps, and also just the idea that maybe you should study the guys that you have physical similarities to. Like, maybe you can learn a trick or two that they might be able to pass along that way. That's a real fun pick there, and yeah, it is definitely interesting with the Danny Wolf stuff. I've probably talked a million times on this pod about him, and probably too much. Like, at the end of the day, I'm not over here trying to make a guarantee of some hidden star is just going to pop out, but more so just from the passing feel, the decision making feel. That's a bet I really would make. But I totally agree on the scalability. That's kind of where I get at with the high risk aspect, is that if a team is not all in on giving him the ball and running the offense through him, you're just not going to get the most out of him. And trying to restrict him to like an off-ball stationary role, like, is just not getting any value out of the pick you made. So totally agree there. That is what makes maybe Queen a little more safer of the two, even if both are gambles. Just that, you know, he can probably translate a few different ways in that sense. It's funny. J. Kyle Mann recently comped him. Maybe not comp, but says there's some similarities there to Hito Turkoglu. So, you know, I was immediately a fan of that take right away. Just this like fringe 6'10", 6'11", like point forward almost that initiates the offense. And I really love the idea when he said it. But the concerns you have are super fair. Like the idea that a 7 foot point guard, give or take, you throw someone underneath him, it's going to be really hard to get by that quicker, like, perimeter type of player to create the advantages. So we'll see if he can do it at the next level. I think if a team lets him run pick and rolls and gives him the keys to the engine, that we'll see some promising offensive engine stuff. But totally agree that if he isn't given that full opportunity, it might not be very pretty in other roles. It is one of those, like, either you're all in or you're not at all when it comes to him and what you're willing to give role wise. So up next we got Brooklyn Nets, 8th pick overall. They actually have 4 first round picks with 2 in the 20s and the 19th pick as well. And this is another one where they're pretty devoid of talent here in Brooklyn. I feel like they could go just about any direction with this pick to kind of just help build an identity. I would say there's a high potential pick here that is interesting in terms of that with Noa Essengue as kind of a high potential swing they could go. And I would have considered some of these other guys we've already taken as well at this pick. But man, I think I got to go with the Tre Johnson pick with the rumors there. Even though there's some rumors with like Cam Thomas, we actually hit on that on my last podcast with Ahmed Jaman. He detailed how he can see how the archetype gets similar talked about when you're just trying to shoot out a quick couple of sentences to describe a guy, like he's a tough shot maker. Okay, yes, there's a lot of those around. But the actual archetype itself, when you dive in, basically, he pointed out how Tre is just a much more versatile shooter, much more motion shooter, can get shots off at a lot of different angles and a lot of different play types. And that shooting versatility is really the big separator for the two. And that alone could make it where, even if they are similar play types, if you view Tre as your star of the future, then you move on and you take him and you just have, someone else that also gets buckets play behind him as a 6-man. But just big believer in Tre Johnson as a shooter, a scorer, love his versatility on that end, and think he's a much better kind of passer than he's been marketed as well. But maybe others do view that at this point too. But he's a kind of guy where I could definitely see him be a lead offensive option, a scorer for a team. And then he can also handle decision-making as a lead primary too, where he's passing out of doubles and creating good offense for his team as a scoring creator type. So there's some real offensive type of top primary type scoring option there with Tre to Brooklyn at 8. And you're up 9th with the Raptors.
So the Raptors really could have used Tre Johnson. They have no shooting. They were 29th in three-point rate this season. Kon Knueppel would be a good one here too. I feel like, you go down here, Toronto and Portland, I think both would love to get shooters if that's possible. Maluach, obviously off the board. He would have been a good fit in Toronto as well. So I could go Jeremiah Fears here. I could go Derik Queen. I could go Noa Essengue. But it feels weird having Essengue land here when, but the Raptors aren't really good enough to be drafting for fit. So now I'm talking myself into it. I pronounce his last name as Essengue. Is that correct or incorrect? You can edit this part out.
That's okay. I'm still learning as we go. I've gone with Essengue. I've heard it a few times, different ways too. So still haven't landed on the correct one.
All right, I'm going Noa Essengue. I really like him overall. Just basic sales pitch. He's super big, super fast, and pretty productive in a good pro league. So love his switchability defensively, 1 through 5. I think he's pretty unrefined, but his recovery tools are just so nasty, where he can basically just recover to the ball all over the floor. He's big enough and moves well enough to stick with smaller players. Apparently he has a 9'3" standing reach. He hasn't been measured yet, but that's the rumor going around. That is NBA center size, if that's true. And there's just not people who are as big as him who move as fluidly as he does. It's kind of amazing that everyone wants a dribble, pass, and shoot guy. Can he do any of them? Can he dribble, pass, or shoot? I don't know. But he's still productive as a December 2006 birthday guy in a good pro league, and just had a 21-point playoff game in his debut. So he's a bundle of tools. I feel like I'm always a sucker for a bundle of tools. They just give me more out to be a good player. Who knows what Noa Essengue will one day grow into. But I think he's got a lot of traits that you just can't teach. And this Raptors team, probably not a great landing spot for him because, their floor spacing is just horrible. They have no shooters. But, the Raptors, like I said, they're not in a good enough position to draft for fit. So I'm going to Senge just as like the highest guy left on my board probably. And let him run and let him test the limits of his skill set in Toronto because they don't have a ton going on right now.
Yeah, that's a great fit or a great pick. Interesting fit for sure. I agree. We'll see with the spacing wise, but like you said, like they're kind of in between. Like, are they trying to win now? Are they trying to rebuild? They have an interesting roster. They have Scotty Barnes in play, and there's a little overlap there. But I do think that the defense would be pretty incredible. And like you said, like Noah was a very impactful player without really doing normal role player basketball things. Like he gets downhill, he plays defense, and he impacts the game as this two-way wrecking ball force. And still, like you said, can still improve just about all the way around as a dribble, pass, shoot kind of guy. Like, will he develop some of those ball skills? I guess it remains to be seen. But I know people really love his developmental curve, how quick he's developed, how young he is, and how impactful he can be just as a tenacious defender and then downhill two-way force off of that. And so we got the Rockets here with the 10th pick. And let's see, we got Ace Bailey is still on the board. Jeremiah Fears still on the board. Derik Queen, Kasparas Jakucionis, Asa Newell. With the Rockets, I could go a few different ways here, but I think I'm going to go with Ace Bailey. I think he can bring a little D3 to what they're going for. Might not, it's not going to solve their playmaking needs, but it gives them another scoring option, a legit tough shot maker, elite, could be an elite defender, especially a playmaker on the defensive side, has incredible rebounding instincts, and I think kind of fits the mold similar to Jabari there as just another high scale two-way D3 type of guy who has some tough shot making capabilities. So I think they can rely on Ace as possible scoring option down the line, and at the very least a guy that can plug and play with this group and bring defense and threes. And importantly, I don't think they're going to ask him to do too much too soon, where he has to be the number one guy who dribbles and creates everything. He just has to fit in with this system, play off the Sengun, play off the downhill playmaking of a Amen Thompson, Cam Whitmore, and just kind of fit, plug and play in the what they already do so well. So we got the Portland Trailblazers here with the 11th pick.
So Tre's off the board, right?
Yeah, Tre Johnson. He's gone. 8th.
So who am I looking at here? We got Queen, we got Fears, who I both like. I'm surprised they're still on the board at 11. Yeah. Queen and Fears. We got Jakucionis. We got Newell. We got Carter Bryant. We got Jase Richardson. Is it crazy to go Jase here? I kind of like the fit with Jase. I mean, he's small, but like if any team has the size and the defensive ability in their young foundation to cover up for Jase Richardson's weaknesses, it's the Trailblazers with Toumani Camara, with Donovan Clingan. They just need shooting. I think they could just use someone who could play off Denny a little bit more and just give him some more gravity. And like I'm not worried about Jace's usage concerns really within this team context. Like I said, I think they have the personnel to cover him defensively. I am worried about his injury history. How much do you know about his injury history? Apparently he had some like super gnarly knee injury in high school that I can't find a ton of information on, but seems like potentially scary despite the fact that he's also like 6'0". So those are my concerns with him, but I just feel like Jase Richardson is a special skill for finding the soft pockets in a defense on the perimeter. Like, very good relocator, elite nuclear shooter, I think. And yeah, I just like the fit here. I think that Portland's ready to take a little step up. And why not go Jase Richardson here at number, 11 overall?
There it is. That's a fun one. And yeah, they definitely got some defense in place there where you could kind of see that fit. They do have a lot of interesting guards there, so it could complement, a three-headed monster. Maybe Simons is out the door soon, and all these trade rumors possibly on the Magic in the future. Who knows? We'll see. But that's the rumors there. But that's a fun choice. Shout out Jay Rich and the Richardsons there, and with the 12th pick on the next one here, the Chicago Bulls. Your Bulls could go a couple different directions here. But I think I've already landed on it. We're going with Derik Queen. We're going star hunting here in Chicago. We're gonna just put the ball in Queen's hands and unleash the Matas Queen Bulls era of these like big downhill force type of athletes that just penetrate the paint and create out of there. And I think there are some very exciting talents in Chicago, and at the same time they probably can still go star hunting. Like, I'm not sure if they have like their clear guy in place unless you think it's Matas. So Queen to me is that high potential guy left on the board where like we mentioned on before, like he's a foul drawing magnet. Nobody wants to get in front of him. He's a tank going downhill, penetrates the paint at will, really graceful footwork getting to the rim, like almost surprising how easy he can get to the rim from the perimeter as a big. But that handle, the footwork, the build, it's just really hard to slow down. And he has these really incredible playmaking vision passes, whether it's a full court skip or a full court like skip ahead, I guess, or a roundabout skip or a driving kick, whatever it may be. Like he flashes some nice playmaking there as something of a downhill foul drawing, rim attacking, playmaking hub, kick out guy that you could maybe build an offense around one day. So we're going Derik Queen, number 12 to Chicago, and you're up with the 13th.
Yeah, and I like it with the Queen pick. I was out on him for a while just because, again, I don't know how he's going to transition to being a role player. Like, he's undersized for a center.
Yeah.
He's not in shape at all. I think he plays with a low motor defensively. And he doesn't really offer any rim protection. But he sold me later in the season because he just has a special skill with the ball in his hands. And yeah, I don't know. I'm fine with it. Like, but also now I'm thinking like he doesn't fit with Giddey, really. Like, I think he fits with Modest well. Modest was actually like number 13 in the league or something in block percentage this season. So Modest's rim protection is going to be stress tested with Derik Queen next to him in the front court. But already I'm like, Giddey's screwing this up. So why are they about to give him $30 million a year or whatever? So I like that pick. Anyways, so now I got 13. I got the Atlanta Hawks. This is an easy one. Give me Carter Bryant for the Atlanta Hawks. The theme of the Atlanta Hawks has been surrounding Trae Young with size, length, and athleticism. Carter Bryant checks all those boxes. I think that he has a chance to be a freak defensively. Fantastic frame for a wing, 6'8", 225, 7-foot wingspan. Those are ideal NBA wing dimensions. Really good athletic indicators in terms of his defensive playmaking, his block percentage, his steal percentage, dunks everything inside. I just think he's a quick twitch athlete with amazing size, and that's something you bet on. He can also make an open three-point shot, and that's nice. Can Carter Bryant do anything else offensively besides for hitting an open three-point shot? I wonder about that. I've heard some players question his toughness a little bit. So, I mean, he's young. He's a freshman in college, so I can sort of look past that a bit. But I like Carter Bryant in general. I think that, he's just malleable in terms of his role, and he could be pretty special defensively. Could he be a Toumani Camara type as, the Camara of this draft? If so, he's definitely worth the number 13 pick, and he would join an Atlanta core with a bunch of guys who are pretty sick athletes with a little bit of floor spacing potential. So I'm going him.
Yeah, that's a great pick. He slides right into that DN3 role. Already got the pre-made offense, Trae Young offense, pick and roll offense, like ready to go. He can. That's flanking Trae Young with positive impact defenders is a winning strategy to me, especially when they have enough play finishing to not get run off the floor on the other end. And like you said, maybe he's not scoring a ton off the dribble, but he can hit the catch and shoot three off the ball and be an ace defender. There's some real DN3 impact there. Even though we all want more than the DN3 role players nowadays, they still have a role, especially if you can fill out the playmaking and connected passing around them. With the Spurs' 14th pick, going with Asa Newell, one of my favorite players in this draft. Really loved his defensive versatility and activity, especially at Mount Byrd. next to Cooper Flagg and Derik Queen. Just imagine being a high schooler going up against that front court. But Newell just does a lot of role player things well. Like I think he's going to be a winning player at the next level because he brings incredible length. He has a really high pinpoint on the ball where he's one of the best offensive rebounders and shot blockers in the whole draft class. And that's probably his specialty skill to me. But he still has, a workable 3-point shot. I think it was even efficient in Mount Verde, not as much at Georgia, but it was getting better as the season progressed. And I think there's enough there to believe in the three. He's shown the ability to, at the very least, pump fake, attack a closeout, and beat you with a post up, or he has a go-to spin move in the post as well down there. So it's not only the catch and shoot three, but he's another guy where you're not really asking him to create a lot off the dribble. He's just the ultimate high-end role player with a lot of athleticism where I know there might have been something of a comparison to like a Kalel Ware type of prospect from last year where you see a lot of length, skill, and tools are there. You just got to kind of round out the winning player attributes there. So you slide him right next to Wemby. Neither of them have to be the lockdown defenders. They can just both be super active defenders with that length, be a play finisher and a catch and shoot 3-point guy playing off all of these guards that are now there with Fox and Dylan Harper, Chris Paul, Castle, if they keep all of those guys. You got Vassell there on the wing too. So you just kind of can slide Newell as a defense, a big defensive wing, like hopefully a star stopper type, where you get that versatility going forward. So if you have any thoughts on Newell to 14, let me know. And right after that, we're going to go into the speed round here, where we just hit on the rest of the first round, the team, the prospect, and maybe a thought as to why they should take them. So you're up with the 15th after.
Yeah, let's do it. Oklahoma City Thunder 15. Wow, Jakucionis still on the board. Jeremiah Fear still on the board. I really like both those guys a lot. Does it make sense to take them right after you just took Nikola Topic, who was my number one prospect on my 2024 board? So
oh wow,
my reputation is staked on Topic. I am not going to draft another guard to block my boy. So instead, I'm going with a very Thunder pick here. Noah Penda out of France, 20-year-old forward. Just feels like the Thunder doubling down on what they always do, which is draft guys with long arms who can make plays both defensively and as a passer. Really like his passing. The shot to me is a pretty big question mark. I don't have a great feel for just like his athleticism yet, but I just love his instincts on both ends of the floor. He just knows how to go get the ball defensively, knows where to be defensively, and then on offense, just a pretty good passer for someone with such great size. Like I said, I want to see him prove he can get better as a shooter. But yeah, this feels like the Thunder doubling down on their strengths, and I like Penda for them.
That's a real fun one. He's a perfect Thunder winning player type there. We got the Orlando Magic coming up next, and this is kind of tough because I did not think all of these players would still be available this late in the process here. You said Jeremiah Fears and Kasparas are still on the board. I like some other guards too. Like it's probably too early for the guy Tahaad Pettiford, I suppose, but I'm really high on him. Man, I might just say screw it and go with Pettiford. I mean, it's either him or Fears, I guess, is where I'm kind of down to. And Fears is really slipping, and I don't really think he's going to slip this far by any means. Kasparas is also there, but man, I like what Pettiford brings too much to the table. I'm going with Tahaad Pettiford. His explosiveness, the 3-point shot, the dynamic athleticism. It might be a little bit of a reach. I know he's a little bit undersized, but we're at the point where Orlando needs talent. This guy brings the talent, brings the shooting, brings the dynamic, the explosiveness, just a lot of attributes that Orlando does not currently have in their backcourt. And if he hits, you have a potential explosive star in the making at guard alongside everyone else. So just a really fun player there that got to go with Tahaad at 16 to Orlando, and that leaves you up at 17 for Minnesota.
Minnesota, I'm going to go Jakucionis here. I think could just be a natural fit as someone who can alleviate some playmaking pressure off Anthony Edwards, has good size in the backcourt. I view him a little bit as a step back merchant. If his step back is going to be a lethal weapon for him, I think he's going to be a good NBA player. If he can't hit that shot at an efficient clip, I wonder how do you score? if you can't do that, he got to the line a lot in college. I'm not totally convinced that's going to translate just because he's not the most athletic guy. I would say he's going to be under the athletic thresholds for NBA guards. But I think that, Jakucionis can create advantages even without elite foot speed because his passing vision and his passing creativity is really that brilliant. I think that would help out the Wolves quite a bit. So tough call, but I'm going Jakucionis to the Wolves.
Yeah, he slipped far enough. That's a good pick there, a fun pick. I'm there with you on the step back idea, but they can always use a little influx of point guard, small point forward type that can run some pick and roll and hit the step back, and it actually fits pretty cleanly there, especially if that catch and shoot ever comes along. But we know he does love an off the dribble pull up. We got the Wizards are back on the clock here with the 18th pick. And mostly because he's fallen far enough. Jeremiah Fears deserves to be taken by now. Super exciting talent. We actually talked about some of his game-winning shots, like right after some of his big moments. First time on the pod with Oklahoma, like he's had some really exciting moments in this college season. Just incredible first step burst, gets the paint at will. Like no one stops him from driving to the inside the paint, and he has really incredible kind of footwork, touch, vision once he gets there to create a good look for himself, draw the foul, or hit the kick out. And there's a lot to like as a 3-point shooter. The defensive question marks still exist. That's probably why he slipped just a little bit here. But I think the Wizards could use talent, and the backcourt especially could be somewhere where he fits. And they have some defensive front court in the fold already, and now they pick up Danny Wolf and Jeremiah Fears as some offensive influx to that talent. So we'll see how that looks, and that puts us at 19 with the Nets.
19, Brooklyn Nets. I'm taking Adou Theiro out of Arkansas. Going to be one of the most athletic forwards in the NBA from the day he's drafted. He has an elite combination of length and explosiveness. So I like that for a Nets team that just felt a little bland last year. Like they could really use some athleticism on the wings, I feel like. He's got to be able to shoot it. He's a very poor shooter right now, but man, he's a monster on the glass. He's going to be so good in transition. I think, his offensive rebounding upside and his defensive upside are both really high. He just plays like he's shot out of a cannon constantly. So I'm going Theiro to the Nets at number 19, which leaves you with the Miami Heat.
Miami Heat. All right. 20th pick here. The Heat got Bam and Wiggins in the fold. Obviously, Khalil Ware, Tyler Hero, kind of in between as well, where they feel like they're contending, but I mean, I don't know if they really are. They're kind of stuck in the middle here, in between. Personally, at this point, I'm super high on. For this team, for the Heat, I think I'm going to go with Miles Byrd, actually, because he's the highest on my board. Really big fan of kind of his connective play. Does a little bit of everything as this. He can pull up a three, he can catch and shoot three, he can swing the ball, he can run some offense as a connector, as an initiator, can defend, he makes plays. Just kind of a do-it-all connector type to throw out on the wing that has a lot to like for his game. So I'm going to go with Miles Byrd, 20 Heat, and that puts the Jazz on the clock at 21.
Tempted to take Igor here, even though I don't like Igor at all. He's right next to Danny Wolf on my do not draft list. But I just feel like the Jazz are so pathetic that like they just need like something to get excited about. So maybe Igor could be it. But no, I'm talking myself off the Igor ledge, and instead I am going with Thomas Sorber, a player who I just have more confidence in being a long-term NBA player. And Thomas Sorber, I wrote this in my recent Combine winners and losers column. He's going to be something like the 8th longest player in the NBA, in the 12th heaviest player or something. He's like 262 pounds, 7'6" wingspan. I think he plays a little heavy. Like he doesn't really get off the ground that fluidly, and he's like 6'9" basically. But having that length certainly helps him. I also just think he's a really smart, tough paint protector. And like the Jazz could use some of that. Yeah, they got Walker Kessler, but like I feel like he's been on the trade block for 2 years at this point. Just like a hard screen setter, good passer, can grease the offense in the front court. They got Filipowski too, who's pretty solid. So yeah, I don't know. It's the Jazz. What do you do with the Jazz? I don't know. But I'm going Thomas Sorber just because he's the best player available, I think, and the Jazz need to go BPA.
Yeah, that's a really great choice. And like you said, just a smart winning type player, really strong defender in the post, can pass. He's a strong defender, a playmaker. And like, it very much a high floor pick in my mind too, where it just feels like a safe choice where he's going to be a strong defender, a strong playmaker in the front court for some team for a very long time.
So 22
so definitely
Hawks.
There you go. The Hawks are up at 22. You already took it was Carter Bryant on the wing at 13 for them. So I'm going to go with a guard here, Libaron Philon out of Alabama, just flanking Trae Young with some defense. He's a winning player. Like it's almost like you got Dyson Daniels. Now here comes another smart winning player right behind him off the bench to kind of fill out that rotation where he might not be the best catch and shoot 3-point threat, but he's a guy that can run a little offense, makes hustle winning plays every single game. You're going to come away watching him and see like 4 or 5 times a game where it's like, yeah, I think he won that possession just because he cared more and tried a little harder than the next guy. And, he's a winning player consistently that I definitely value, and he gets downhill. So it brings a little bit of a different element off of Trey compared to the athleticism. So that puts us at 23.
23, Indiana Pacers. I'm going with a wild one here. Let's go Ryan Kalkbrenner out of Creighton.
Oh.
I feel like backup big man has been a bugaboo for the Pacers for a little bit. I was going through some of their old box scores against the Knicks. They were starting Thomas Bryant at times, backup 5 this year when Miles Turner was out. Miles Turner strikes me as the world's oldest 29-year-old, but I watched him in high school back in the day in the 20.
Him and Steven Adams, right?
Yeah, totally.
They're both around there.
And I just feel like they could use another look because Turner approaching free agency, I believe. I'm not super familiar with that off the top of my head, but I think he is. So Kalkbrenner, I just think that he's a nasty shot blocker. He's super duper long, seems like a high IQ player, and he's kind of a warrior. Just like watching him at Creighton, always played with a lot of heart. Just love his combination of size and rim protection, and I think that's worth taking at this spot. I also think he has some shooting upside. He has a very slow 3-point shot. He didn't need to shoot threes at Creighton because he could just dominate on the inside. He's probably going to need to shoot in the NBA, and I think he's got a chance to shoot. So let's go Ryan Kalkbrenner to the Pacers at number 23, which leaves the Oklahoma City Thunder to you at number 24.
Hey, nice. That's a good pick. Another safe big man, like you said, protects the rim. Kalkbrenner can hit the open 3. Good baseline as an NBA big man, a rotation level big. I like that fit there. The Thunder can go so many different ways. Man, is hard to pick just one. I think I would go with like more of a high end winning role player type here for the Thunder that can just plug and play, like a Nick Clifford. He brings a little scoring versatility. Don't have to think much about his usage and stuff. You already know your role in Oklahoma City, so you can just kind of throw him out there as another versatile scoring option, stretch the floor a little bit, just bring some all around winning impact as a high level role player. So go with Nick Clifford, 24 to the Thunder. That puts the Magic on the clock at 25.
25. So you took Pettiford?
Yeah, I already took Pettiford, who would have been the pick here probably.
You took Pettiford previously. Yeah, it's like I don't want to take a guard here, but I think the best value plays are the guards. I'm going to go Nolan Traore.
Oh, okay.
Going 2 guards here for you. Super duper fast. Fastest player in the class, probably.
Maybe.
One of the best handles in the class, I would say. Can't shoot at all. Not good for the Magic. But the Magic could just use a guy who could get into the paint and collapse the defense and kick out to a bunch of non-shooters there in Orlando. So Orlando, please get some shooters. Please do for Paolo what the Pistons did for Cade last offseason. But I'm going to go Traore just as a value play. I don't know, between him and Pettiford, maybe they can get one of those guys hits, and they got a point guard. So let's do it.
There it is. Yeah, I like Nolan as kind of a connector type, plus defender. You mentioned he can definitely get into the paint, kind of like Fears. Like he has that first step burst to him. Has had good games as a shooter, but not very consistent. But it is still very young and has definitely fallen down this board. So has the talent and definitely fits that kind of like connector point guard that the Magic do chase. And he being a non-shooter just means he'll fit right in. So he'll be one of the Magic guys. The Nets got back-to-back picks here, 26, 27. We took Tre Johnson for them the first time around. And so I think you got to go like high potential here. How about a Ben Suraf, one of the best passers in the whole draft? He's got arguably the best passer period in the draft. So you can kind of have a bankable skill to bank on. You can kind of see the remnants of like, all right, we got our point guard. We have a really smart coach. We have a shooter in Tre Johnson, a scorer that we can set up, and maybe there's a little bit of a fun offensive backcourt of the future there to build around long term. So that puts the Nets back on the clock, back-to-back picks for you as well. So we have Tre Johnson and Suraf to the Nets. That leaves 27 for you.
Yeah, why not Rasheer Fleming here?
There you go, and Thoreau. Sorry. At 19. So that's another one. Fleming, that's a good one.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I'm not the biggest fan on him. It's crazy how, like, I think some of the NBA fans who aren't diehard draft fans are, like, all in on Fleming right now. Have you noticed that? Like,
yeah, I mean, he's definitely...
the Spurs podcast, they're like, oh, should we take him at 14? To me, that's a little rich for him. But also, yeah. I don't like to be like I'm a know-it-all guy with the draft because nobody's really a know-it-all guy with the draft, even if I do cover it all year round. I've just been doing it long enough to see that, like, sometimes being too close to it can be less beneficial. So there's a lot to like about Fleming just on paper. Doesn't he have like a 7'5" wingspan? He's like 250 pounds. He shot the ball well for 1 year, I guess, in the A10. So why not? I mean, the Nets could use some big, versatile floor spacers. I have a hard time getting a read on his defense. I guess that's probably why I'm not quite as high on him as some people are, and I'm not totally sure I buy the shooting, but at this point in the draft, it's like, who cares? So I'll go him at this point. Rasheer Fleming.
Yeah, I mean, he comes off as a plug-and-play type of guy, as I've kind of come to know him as one of the safer, like, high-floor guys, maybe lower potential, but, like, should be a role player, power forward, maybe a stretch forward type at the next level, but if you see that, you see it, and that would be one of the safer picks in this class if you're just going for somebody that can contribute right away. So that leaves 3 picks left for us: Boston, Phoenix, and LA Clippers. With the 28th pick, Boston Celtics, I'm going to go with Walter Clayton. Get a little 3-point shooter in the mix. Obviously, Tatum is out for the year, or maybe the postseason and next year. We really have no idea which direction this team is going to go in. I think they're good enough to basically do nothing and still contend because they're just so built with all these stars. But if you're worried about it, understandably so, like the money that's coming up with Kristaps and Drew now, Tatum and Brown down the line, and affording all these stars, you got to pay Pritchard eventually and Derek White as well. So it's understandable why they would consider breaking it up. Maybe they just move Kristaps and Drew and keep Jalen and D. White and Pritchard and bring back Tatum, but a whole bunch of possibilities. I would say let's go after Walter Clayton right now because he's a knockdown 3-point shooter. Maybe there's a little offensive upside. They get another scoring threat for that backcourt that's already loaded with these defensive playmakers and connector types. So why not take a flyer on kind of a 3-point sniper that, maybe he's the new Eddie House, or maybe there's a little bit more. That puts you on the clock, 29 with Phoenix.
29 with Phoenix. I guess let's go Cedric Howard here. I don't know. I am not convinced Cedric Howard's going to be good, but he has a 7'2" wingspan. He has a 40% 3-point stroke. At this point in the draft, you got the 29th pick. I feel like the Suns, obviously they probably need a center long term. Thought about Janai Broom here. Is he going to be a 5 in the NBA though? Or is he more a 4? So I'll just go Coward. We're just taking the shot. I mean, I have no idea if I think he's going to be good or not. I just haven't seen him play enough. But he was an impressive interview. And, it shouldn't be that hard to be a 3-and-D guy if you're a good 3-point shooter and you have the physical attributes to defend. So this is an F it we ball pick. We'll go Cedric Howard at 29 to the Suns.
There it is. Yeah, I mean, he definitely has the tools, and we'll see if kind of he can learn those instincts that great defenders pick up along the way to be able to use that athleticism without fouling. And it's a fun pick there for Phoenix. Who knows where their team is headed next year with all the trade rumors going on. That leaves the last pick, LA Clippers of the first round. And there's a couple different ways you could go here. I think I'm going with Liam McNeely because I'm a little higher on him than this slot. I think he probably would have been taken by now, and his high school priors give me a little bit of more hope of what he can be at the very least as kind of an off-ball three-point shooter who has a little bit of athleticism that he can pump fake and attack the closeout with a strong drive and slam. But he, had some up and down season where I think he had a little bit too much usage in college. So I think readjusting his role at the next level where he will be maybe the Luke Kennard role or the Grayson Allen role, like just a 3-point shooter, stand still in the corner. Maybe he can bring a little bit of juice as a scorer as well. Like he did end up averaging over 20 points a game as the main guy. I just think he's probably best suited for an off-ball play finisher type 6-man, a Malik Monk role for Sacramento back in the day or something would be kind of his peak one. So throw him on the Clippers. You have Harden and Zubats with the pick and roll already. You have Kawhi there. So, bring in a 3-point shooter, add to an elite defense who can kind of keep the ball moving, make smart decisions. Seems like a winning bet. And that puts us at 30. The entire first round here, the officially ends the Learning Basketball Switch Theory 2025 NBA mock draft working title. But I think we nailed it. We got everybody a nice home. I know I reached on Danny Wolf. I tried to stop myself. I couldn't do it. I could have just gone with Queen there, but what am I going to do? They gave me the control and they let me make the decision today. So I appreciate you hopping on, taking the time today. Ricky, it's a lot of fun just talking draft, talking hoops, and always a good time catching up.
Thanks for having me, man.
Have a good one. Be sure to check out Ricky's work at SBN. Learning Basketball is a Switch Theory podcast hosted from Beyond the Arcade. Hey, that's me. You can find my work on Twitter, YouTube, Substack, and check out the team's writing at theswishtheory.com.